Hello and welcome back to the Fight and Talk 2 channel. We are the Fight and Talk 2 team. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. If you are a first-time listener or viewer, please check us out across the board on all audio platforms. Google, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcast, and obviously you can find us on YouTube and the Sportinarium radio station as well. In Casual Corner, how are we doing, George?
Yes, mate. All good. Thank you very much. I've had my second jab yesterday, so I'm feeling a little bit worse for wears, but ready to talk about some fights.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. You're all 5G'd up now, so you can actually watch the fights through your eyelids, because that is one of the symptoms of getting the vaccine, apparently.
Correct. Yes, I can't wait.
And apologies from the eloquent analyst. Unfortunately, he had a passing in the family, so we send our condolences to him and wishing him and his family everything is good in the end. You know what I mean? It's always hard when people lose someone, you know, so our thoughts go to him and his family. But nevertheless, we are on to the fights, as the show must go on. We had an early night last night, which was nice. It was nice for a 10 p.m. start over here in the UK. And obviously, I think it rounded up about 10 to 3, which is not too bad, because earlier on, we actually had quite a few finishes in the fight card, which is always good to see. The Immortal obviously making a resurgence, it would seem, knocking out this kid that's like 15 years younger than him, which was obviously very, very good. But we will get to that a bit later on. George, you obviously saw something you very much liked on the early part of the card. Tell me, what was it, buddy?
Yeah, man. I just want to mention Casey O'Neill against Lara Procopio. You know, was a fight that was going under the radar a little bit, but Casey O'Neill made it interesting. You know, she's undefeated in her mixed martial arts career at 7-0 now. And she was fighting Lara Procopio, who is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think the chances of her getting a submission victory over her was slim to none. And in the second round, I think it was the second round, she submitted her, with a rear naked choke. So a really impressive performance. That is a type of performance that gets people's attention in the UFC, because, that makes you stand out a little bit. And it's just a really great statement victory, and something that should be acknowledged, really. There's not much to kind of talk about. Casey O'Neill's still kind of like an up and coming prospect in the 125-pound division. And before she's anywhere good enough to get close to Valentina, she's got a long, long way to go. So, but yeah, no, an impressive performance over a very skilled jiu-jitsu athlete last night for a great win for Casey O'Neill.
I think the good thing about some of these girls that are coming through at the moment, especially if they're kind of like fringe 15, is they might not actually have to face Valentina, because Valentina's obviously at the top of the tree now, and she's been there for quite a long time. So the likeliness is she probably will retire in the next couple of years, because she'll have nothing left to do. She'll have no one left to beat. So fingers crossed for the people on the fringe 15, they might actually have a new champ by then. Because if you're looking at these ladies that might come into the kind of into the championship conversation in kind of 2 years to kind of 28 months or whatever it may be, they might not have to face the bullet that would clearly probably go through quite a lot of them.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. To be fair, some of them might avoid the slaughter that Valentina will provide them. So, that won't be the same for Lauren Murphy, who before the end of the year will be killed by Valentina.
And it's nice that we just assume that Valentina is going to absolutely run through everyone, because she's just a different breed of athlete. She's just a different kind of machine. It's obviously unfortunate that her sister isn't quite there. It's strange how some people in the family obviously have that natural killer instinct, and some people don't, very much like the next person that we're going to speak about, which is obviously Lima's brother, Diego Lima. Is it Diego Lima or Douglas Lima?
Yeah, man. That's it.
Yeah, so it's Douglas Lima's brother, no?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Diego Lima. Why would you have two kids with similar names? I don't understand. You're making it confusing for yourself and for us, who obviously got completely annihilated by Matt Brown with a beautiful overhand right, I believe it was, that completely put him to sleep, folded him like a deck chair. What did you make of Matt Brown's performance? And obviously this guy is not going to be making too much noise at the top of the tree because of his age, and just generally because he probably hasn't got a long left in the game, but they obviously put this young up and comer with him to give him a little test. And like we said, it might be a little name bounce for Lima, but obviously there's always the possibility with mixed martial arts that someone will get knocked the F out. And he did. Where do you think Matt Brown goes from here? Because like we say, he's not going to be making noise at the top of the tree, but is he going to be shaking the bottom?
Hey, well, look, first of all, it's been a bad week for the Lima brothers. You know, Diego getting himself viciously knocked out last night, and obviously Douglas losing his title in Bellator last weekend. You know, so it's not been a great week for the old Lima family. But look, Matt Brown, right? He comes to scrap. We know that, right? He's a brawler, and last night he was great. You know, yeah, that vicious knockout, you know, victory is kind of what his kind of career. He's obviously these are the type of victories he's looking for now. I think for him, when I think about it today, I've been trying to think of names. Like I like the idea of Cowboy Oliveira next, maybe for him. I love the idea of Mike Perry. You know, so Matt Brown, Mike Perry, I'll be up for watching that. At welterweight. But look, he was fantastic. A great performance for a guy who's coming towards the end of his career, undoubtedly. He's had the most fights out of anyone in UFC history at welterweight. I think it's 21 fights at welterweight now, which is pretty crazy. And he definitely deserved that performance bonus, which I believe now stands at 75K. So yeah, not a bad night's work for Matt Brown.
And a quick night at the office as well. You know, these guys do not get paid overtime. When you look at how much money they're making per minute, you think it's not really too bad. And to get that extra bonus, which he obviously deserved because he completely cleaned him out, is fair play, man. Fair play to him. And we will just have to touch on this as well because Rob Schneider was obviously fighting yesterday and he had a great performance. I thought it was brilliant that someone could take the mick out of someone that looks very much like them. And, you know, with one eye going to the shop and one eye coming back, it was obviously we're talking about Jandiroba now. And her opponent, Murata, clearly dislocated her arm in the armbar attempt and continued to fight. It was just glorious to see. But obviously the doctors had to come in. And I feel like we're getting these kind of things every single week now. We're getting leg breaks, we're getting arm dislocations, we're getting arm breaks. I feel like we've had a lot more in the past kind of like 6 to 8 weeks than we did beforehand. But
yeah, no.
You know, why do you think that is?
God, mate, I don't really know, to be honest, but I definitely agree with you. This like it feels like every single time we do a podcast, we're talking about somebody dislocating or breaking their arm, breaking their leg. It's a pretty common theme at the moment. So yeah, it's happening quite a lot. But yeah, Jandiroba last night was hungry, motivated, and she was completely dominant, you know. And like I said, she broke Murata's arm, and the doctors had to stop it, you know. But fair play to Murata, it kind of went on for us. You know, she didn't quit straight away. She kept on going, which shows a pretty good kind of strong personality trait of her. But I feel like Jandiroba is seriously underrated. Like I was looking to that, I think she's now 17 or 18-2. She's only lost to Carla Esparza and to Mackenzie Dern, two very, very highly ranked mixed martial artists, you know, in the UFC. You know, people maybe are sleeping on her a little bit. You know, maybe she's someone to keep an eye on over the next, you know, couple of, you know, 18 months, 24 months. You know, someone who might sneak up on, you know, the top 5 and be a bit of a problem potentially.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like we always say with the women's divisions, they're so shallow that sometimes it's quite easy to get noticed and easy to propel yourself straight to the front because there's not a massive pool of people. You know, it's not the welterweight division or the lightweight division where there's just so many people in there and so many people that aren't even ranked yet that you think, wow, they're going to make loads of noise. And it's kind of like with these women's divisions, they're just obviously keeping quite a lot of them seem to stay where they are in the rankings. There seems to be very, very small amounts of movement. But as you say, man, I thought she did really, really well yesterday. Very, very aggressive, you know, great hands as well, very quick hands, good submission attempts. She obviously was on her back for a little bit and then quickly threw up an armbar, which is, you know, it sounds a bit kind of stereotypical, but the women usually finish by submission or decision. So it was a bit strange to see an arm break yesterday, obviously. But yeah, we had Jacare obviously broke his arm. Jamal Hill broke his arm. Weidman obviously broke his leg. And there must be more that I'm not remembering here.
I feel like there has been more, but I'm right. I can't really remember off the top of my head. But I feel like it has been pretty constant in the last few months.
Yeah, it really has. It really has. And obviously, on the pre-fight thing that we spoke a little bit about Chaos Williams, who was supposed to be, as the name kind of suggests, going in and causing a bit of chaos, and obviously had a 3-round fight with Semmelsberger. But I think there was a little bit of a discrepancy on the scorecards, right? Because it was a little bit closer than people may have thought. Or what did you take away from that?
I think I took away from it most of all is like obviously Chaos Williams has come into the UFC. He's had those 2 very quick knockouts, and he had that then decision loss to Michel Pereira back at the back end of was it the back end of last year? I think it was. They fought last card of the year. What I kind of wanted to see from Chaos Williams was maybe I felt like he needed more time in the octagon, which he got last night. He got 15 minutes, which is probably invaluable to him right now. And also, I quite like the fact that at times Semmelsberger gave him some trouble, so he kind of had to come through a bit of adversity to kind of, get that decision win. I think they're both valuable things as Chaos Williams tries and moves forwards, in his UFC career. I think last night I said it a fair amount of times about up and comers, they're great learning experience fights. And I did hear as well in commentary that he's now moved to Jackson Wink as well down in Albuquerque. So that's a great move probably for him, It's a great, well-respected gym. So I think all like Chaos Williams, it felt like he maybe wasn't taking it as seriously. That's not like saying he thought wasn't, just was there for a good time, not a long time. But it feels like he's kind of knuckled down now. He understands the game a bit more. He's gone to a gym that he feels he can develop better at. It feels like we're maybe starting to see a more well-rounded Chaos Williams instead of just a guy who goes in there and tries to finish someone inside 60 seconds.
It's crazy how changing camp or, having a different approach or strategy towards the camp, even one camp, you can seriously notice some differences. When we saw Mason Jones out a couple of weeks ago, he's obviously moved and is training out of the UFC PI now. And it was just crazy to see how much he'd improved. And exactly the same with Chaos yesterday. It was crazy to see how much of a difference he was, implementing into his game, that when he's kind of only done one camp or, maybe 1-2 camps in somewhere, and you think you're coming out with a completely different mindset, a completely different view of these things. And I think it's invaluable to go to different places and to obviously to try out different things and have different approaches, and then not stay with the same camp for your entire career, because, sometimes you will have very, very good performances if you stay at one camp, Khabib staying at ATT, Daniel Cormier staying at ATT and that kind of stuff for the majority of their careers. But I feel like it's very, very much down to the individual as well and how much they take away. And obviously American Top Team is a very, very well-respected gym with constant new people coming into it as well, which are testing the people at the top.
Yeah, definitely. And like with Chaos Williams, if you're spending all day, every day, in and around Greg Jackson, you're gonna get better. With Mason Jones, if you're working out the PI and you're working very closely with Uriah Faber, you're gonna get better. It's simple. And if you can find the right home to harness your skills, then you will find yourself becoming better and better each time you step inside the octagon. Some people do find homes, like Cormier, like Khabib, obviously like the boys at City Kickboxing, they're never leaving Eugene Behrman, the Brad Riddells and the Israel Adesanyas of the world, Dan Hooker, but, I feel like this is, when I heard it last night and they said it, I was just like, that is a really, really good, sensible, well thought out move by Chaos Williams. And I think we'll definitely see the benefits over the next few fights that he has.
Yeah, no, 100%. I completely agree. And there's so many people that are changing camps at the moment, it seems. So many that are just moving around and chopping and changing from different places. And you can really tell, really tell in their game plans that they have moved to a different camp and they are doing different things. And they will succeed, they will succeed by doing that because they're seeking to better themselves by going to different people, I thought Chito Vera looked different yesterday. I don't know, he obviously changed his hairstyle or something, but I thought he looked big as well. He looked very, very big yesterday. He looked huge coming out against Davy Grum. Obviously, there's quite a big age difference between these two gentlemen as well. Davy Grant being a homegrown hero, coming from the north of the UK. The one thing that really annoyed me from yesterday, from their performance, was the fact that someone gave it 30-26 to Chito Vera. And I just thought that was so disrespectful to the performance that Davy Grant put in. You know, fair enough, he didn't win every single exchange and he didn't win every single round, but to do a 10-8 at the end, which I thought was a little bit off, considering that, you know, it wasn't like he was just laying on his back playing possum for the whole 5 minutes. The first round, he came out and he had loads of spinning attacks. He was doing very, very well in the technical exchanges. It was a very well matched first round, I thought. Chito obviously took the advantages in the second and third and really turned it up. But to give it a 30-26, I thought was a little bit unfair. But what did you think of Chito Vera's performance? And obviously Davy Grant, he's in the well, you know, let's be honest, he's in the middle of his career now, towards the back end of his career. I think he's 35. So it's kind of, you know, is he going to be kind of touching on the top 5, touching on the top 3? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah, no, perhaps not, you know, but it wouldn't surprise me if we see Davy Grant kind of crack the top 15, get towards the kind of 11, 10, 9 kind of range. That wouldn't surprise me, you know, in the next few fights for him. Look, Davy Grant is what he is. You know, by trade, he's been he's been a really good wrestler and grappler, you know, and he's found hands in the last few fights. You know, he's kind of been a bit more exciting on the feet, and that's kind of been the kind of reason for a bit of a resurgence for Davy Grant and why he ended up getting a fight with Chito Vera, who obviously is ranked. And I think actually for where he's ranked, I think he's a lot better than the rankings suggest. I think he is probably very comfortably a top 10, you know, top 10 guy. So it was a big fight for Davy Grant last night. And I agree with you, 30-26 was super disrespectful. You know, like you said, you know, we think it was 29-27. That's probably a fair reflection of how the fight was. And that's fair. And it definitely, Chito Vera did win it. It was very competitive in the first round, like you said. The second and third, Chito Vera started to take over. And I've got to be honest, right? I was thinking this morning, can you think of many fighters in the UFC that come on as well as Vera does in those later rounds? It's like he takes a half an hour break and then comes back. It's crazy. It's like he's a different fighter in those later rounds. And I can't think of too many more in the UFC who are better than him at that, to be honest. He looks completely different. So, you know, the only other guy who I could think of was Petr Yan. You know, Petr Yan starts off the fight, it gets way, way better in rounds 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, obviously, Chito Vera had those really great leg kicks that he was using against Davy Grant. And obviously then he had those elbows, which were super vicious and obviously cut Davy Grant pretty badly. But look, Davy Grant is pure entertainment. He's can't miss TV for me. Every single time he fights, you always get what you are paid for, which is pure violence and pure entertainment. And that is what will make Davy Grant stick around for quite a while yet, I reckon. And do you know what? I wouldn't write him off cracking the top 10 in the next 2, 3, 4 fights.
Yeah, why not? Why not? You know, as long as these people want to stay in the game and continue to put on fantastic performances, then why should they be defined, you know, by their age? The next fight that we're obviously going to speak about is Spivak versus Oleinik, which is, he's 44. The man is 44 years old, and there was at times, you know, moments where you thought, wow, I think Oleinik was really going to win here. He was obviously throwing every single submission under the sun. The handkerchief or what is it called? Is it the handkerchief or hand chief?
Yeah, something like that, isn't it? Handkerchief.
He's just got some insane kind of submissions that he tries to go for, and he's got a massive squeeze as well. But from as a viewer, right, and as someone that had done it, I've done a little bit of mixed martial arts myself, or just boxing, Muay Thai, etc. Oleinik, he always, you know, even the commentators were saying he was just dipping to the right, hands were down, and it was kind of, I think if Spivak had worked on his cardio a little bit more, it probably would have been a very easy fight for him. He was catching him all the time on the feet. There was some very labored takedowns as well. from Oleinik and both from Spivak as well. They're both very, very tired by the end of it. And you just think if you know you're coming in, you're fighting someone that is a ground game specialist, you're going to want to keep it on the feet. And there was times where I thought, just break away. Spivak just needs to break away from this. You know, when he had him up the side of the cage and whatever, break away, move off of the cage. You know, keep it in the middle of the octagon, keep it on the feet, and you're probably going to win the fight just by doing that. You know, because you're going to keep him where you want to keep him instead of him trying to take you down every 2 seconds. But where do you think Oleinik goes from here? Because he is 44 years old. He's got a very, very up and down back end of his career, obviously. He's never going to challenge for a title now because he'll be 55 when he's doing so. But do you think he'll be kind of calling it a day over his next over the next couple of months? Because he is 44. I think he's one of the oldest people in the UFC.
Yeah, if not the oldest person in the UFC, right? You know, he's had so many fights, and like you said, like with Oleinik, there's a blueprint now to how to beat him. As long as you stand on your feet for 15 minutes, you're probably going to beat him. That's a simple fact. You don't want to get onto the floor of him because you'll start to find yourself in a few problems potentially. You know, and I don't quite know where Oleinik goes from here. Really, you know, I'm not too like for me personally, if he was to go, do you know what? I've had my time. Thank you very much. I wouldn't be like, oh, why? I feel like you still got a few fights left in you. I'm not convinced anymore, should we say? And like you said, he's not going to fight for a title. I think he's ranked 15 now in the UFC rankings. He's close to dropping out of the kind of top 15. You know, I guess, and he'll just be fed to young, hungry up and comers like Spivak. You know, is you know. But for me, with Sergey Spivak, you know, I thought it's great to have the experience, but last night felt a little bit disappointing in a certain way because it was kind of like if you know Chris Daukaus saw off, you know, Oleinik pretty damn comfortably, and Tom Aspinall did the same to Arlovsky, and it's just like if you want to be a top 10 guy, you want to be one of these like up and coming new guys like a Daukaus, like an Aspinall, like an Alexander Romanov, who's still undefeated. You know, these kind of you've got to be kind of like you've got to be seen to finishing these guys. You know, and if anything, I was more disappointed, even though he won last night with Spivak, than I was with Oleinik. It was kind of, I don't know, I'm not. I said this before last time Spivak fought. I'm just not quite convinced yet by him. There's still a lot of time to develop, but yeah, I wasn't the most exciting of fights across the whole card. And I think with Oleinik, it's just a case of what do the UFC want to do? Do they want to keep him? And you know, here's a guy he'll be down for fighting young young guys up and comers, or do the UFC kind of want to go, look, you've been an amazing servant to the sport and to the company. Thanks very much, and good luck. You know, if it was me, I'd probably go with the latter.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree because he's got nothing left to prove, as you say, man. He's got nothing left to prove. He doesn't need to fight anyone else, and people like Spivak should be seeing these veterans off. Really, you know, there was a fight we missed on the card, which is Choi Seung Woo, who is obviously he's 10-3, so he's a newcomer to the sport. And he's just making noise in the sport as well. And he saw off Julian Erosa, who's 25-10, with a fantastic left hook and then a little bit of ground and pound. And these are the kind of fights you expect to see because you're seeing this young up and comer facing a veteran. Yes, at times there will be these veterans that will turn back the clock, like Matt Brown, obviously at 25-18, fighting someone that's 17-9. But 9 times out of 10, we are going to see these young up and comers fighting at a very, very higher pace and at a more kind of skilled pace as well, because they are younger and they are faster. You know, on paper, they'll be younger, they'll be faster, they'll be fitter, they'll be everything they need to be. But then every now and again, you do have these golden oldies that will turn back the clock. You know, another fight we missed off the fight card as well is obviously Bruno Silva fought Wellington Turman with a fantastic. He kind of got him on the ground. Left hook, right hand, left hook, completely put Turman to sleep. You know, I'm not sure if did you see that fight?
I didn't, unfortunately. I know that was one I missed.
Yeah, there was two on there that were very, very good. One in the middleweight division and one in the featherweight division. And Choi
Mm.
Sang Woo looked absolutely fantastic last night. Looked
He
very
got
good.
he was the other guy that got the performance bonus last night. Him and Matt Brown were the two guys who picked up the old money. So I didn't see it, but clearly it was a great performance from Wu.
It was honestly really, really good. And the
Yeah,
thing that made me laugh as well. As soon as he kind of finished him, the guy didn't break a sweat at all. He kind of went to his corner, was very happy, and then just he had to make sure that his hair was all right and that he was going to be looking good and that kind of stuff. But it was nice for the kind of Southeast Asian fighters to get some wins as well, because obviously we've seen China have been losing quite a lot of their fights recently as well. Obviously Zhang Wei Li, what is it, Yanan Wu? What's the name? What's the other lady name?
Yan Zhaonan.
Yan Zhaonan. Yeah, and it's been sad seeing these people lose their fights, to be honest with you. But it is what it is. We can't generalize fighters coming from a certain era being very good. So it's one of them. But it's nice to see obviously the main event with the Korean Zombie taking a W as well. It's nice to see that they're making a bit of noise. And it's kind of like a nice mix of people that are all winning together. Do you know what I mean? It's not a whole section of, it's not all American fighters that are winning. It's not all Brazilian fighters that are winning. It's a little bit of everyone. And it is a global sport. And it's nice that it's constantly evolving with fighters around the world representing their countries. But
Definitely.
straight in to the main event, which I really, really enjoyed this main event, man. I really, really did. I stayed up to watch this. Luckily, it wasn't too bad. The main card finished about 10 minutes before the main card usually starts for us. So it was an absolute dream. But seeing Dan Ige, or as Dominic Cruz likes to call him, Dan Ige, I don't know where he kind of got that from, or I don't know who the eloquent person that told him what his name was kind of thought about. But Jon Anik has told everyone that they have someone tell them how to say their name, and then the fighter actually tells them how to say their name. But then obviously Dominic Cruz just wrote his own script last night and decided to call him whatever he wanted to. I really thought Danny Ige was going to catch the Zombie at some point. I thought he was throwing that left hand with absolute malice. And there were times where he would literally swing on the spot, where he was putting so much into it. It was nice to see his corner give him a little bit of advice, work the body as well. He was coming up and then working the body as well, had some fantastic shots in the body, some great left hook, left uppercuts to the body, which was really, really nice to see, which obviously hurt Zombie in the later rounds as well. But Zombie, being the veteran that he is, and as the commentator said, not wanting to live up to this kind of blood drunk person that's completely knocked out on the feet, did fantastically well on the floor, controlling the back, switching his body lock from side to side. So obviously Dan Ige, when he was rolling to the side that would then unlock the body lock, the Zombie was changing it over. So it was a constant battle, really. It really was. Dan Ige was doing everything he could, but it was just a constant battle. There was obviously a little bit of time where we thought, well, for me anyway, where there was a little bit of a head collision and there was a cut above the eye of the Zombie. And I thought, wow, cuts in these kind of areas are usually where the fights get stopped, unfortunately. But lucky for us, it did not, which was always good to see, that the fight could continue throughout that. And it was just a fantastic performance, a fantastic performance. The Zombie had some beautiful takedowns, some great level changes, great timing. I felt like Dan Ige was just throwing at the wind quite a lot. He was just kind of throwing his shots, hoping someone would be there, but he just wasn't. The Zombie was just never there. The Zombie was throwing fantastic left hooks just from the waist, and right overhand, just kind of catching him on the side of the head. But Dan Ige had some fantastic head movement and fantastic head blocking, and a great guard as well. Very, very high guard, very similar to kind of Petr Yan, who kind of keeps that very, very high kind of hands in front of the face guard, which we should see more, because if you're seeing it out of the elite strikers, you should be seeing it across the board, because it clearly does work. But
So,
with a Zombie, this is obviously a very, very big win for him and a fantastic fight for him to take a W with as well. Where do you see him going next in the next couple of months? Because there was a lot of talk of the Yair Rodriguez kind of rematch. I think would be fantastic because obviously Max Holloway is out of his fight. Or does he fight Max Holloway in a couple of months? What do you think happens in this division?
hey, well, clearly more people should try and be a bit more like Petian. You know, he is absolutely world class. So if he's fighting like that, more people should be fighting like that. That's a simple fact. Hey, but look, last night, let's go Dan Ige first, right? Dan Ige turned up last night and absolutely was game to fight. You know, wanted the Korean Zombie and he gave it his best. But like we like to say sometimes in this, there's levels to the game. And I just felt Zombie is just a level above. Zombie for me last night absolutely confirmed once again that he is truly and utterly world class as a mixed martial artist. You know, and I genuinely believe he can hang in there with Max and Volk and Ortega. You know, I just feel like the losses that he's had, he's just run into people at certain times where they've just been at the almost they felt they've been at the pinnacle of themselves. Like the Brian Ortega one last autumn, it just felt like Brian Ortega was just on an absolute tear. You know, he'd been out for ages. He just kind of turned up and he just looked incredible. But Zombie is just, like I said last night, I just felt like all round he was just so good. And Ige struggled with that. And that's completely fine. Eric Nixick was brilliant, his coach. The advice he was giving him was brilliant. And it was genuinely good coaching. You know, I say it all the time. What he's doing at Extreme Couture is really special. And last night, you know, I thought he was really good. But look, I heard some statistics about Zombie today. Right, this is Zombie's first decision win since April 2008, which is pretty insane. So he's basically either won or lost by submission or TKO knockout for the last 13 years. And this is the first time he's never won a UFC performance bonus. So every other fight he's fought in UFC, he's always won a performance bonus. You know, he's now 4-0 when he's moved his training camp to the US because he's been training in Phoenix for this upcoming fight with Ige. And I personally think now, when you think about where he goes next after such a great performance, I think the Yair one is really interesting because he was going to win that Yair fight if it wasn't for the last minute elbow. So there is the narrative there to go and redo that one. I really like the idea of doing Yair against Giga Chikadze, and maybe Zombie holding out for Holloway and doing Zombie against Max, and whoever comes through that fighting for the title against either the winner of Volkanovski or Ortega. I think that one would be a great one to do. I think Max against the Zombie would be a brilliant fight, and one that is it's just a fight for the fans, isn't it? That is and it almost makes too much sense to make. You know, if we saw that kind of like early autumn time, Holloway against Korean Zombie, perfect. I think that's kind of where I want the UFC to go towards, to be honest.
No, I agree. I see everything you say. To be honest with you, I just agree with you. You know, we've known each other long enough now, and we're very similar with regards to our outlooks on these things. The top 5, top 6 of the 145 division is just glorious. You know, I feel like any of these guys can fight any of these guys at any point, and it would be an absolute banger. You know, it really would. The only thing, what about Kelvin Kattar? Is he going to be coming into the mix again? Because obviously he took a loss to Max Holloway. He's got to be fighting someone soon, right?
Oh, do you know what? I really want to see Calvin Kattar against Edson Barboza, because I think that's just an absolute barn burner of a fight. And when you think about Dan Ige and where he goes next, I was looking at the rankings today. What about him up against Arnold Allen?
Absolutely.
They're both ranked at the same kind of area. What a fight that would be for Arnold Allen as well, you know, there's so much potential for some amazing fights in this division at the moment. So, yeah, hopefully the UFC get it right and we get some absolute, crackers, between now and the end of the year.
And obviously we've got Zabit Magomed Sharapov as well, that needs to fight more than a 3-round fight and have some cardio at some point. But when's he going to come back?
Well, yeah, he's meant to be having surgery, isn't he, at the moment on some problem that he's got, and it's such a shame because I think he's so good. I think he's so talented, but we just haven't seen him enough to be absolutely certain that he is that. I think when you think about the Calvin Kattar fight from 2019, if that had been a 5-round fight, would Calvin Kattar have kind of taken over in that fight and maybe won the kind of championship round to that fight? We obviously will never know, but I think there are still. I genuinely think that Zabit is world class, but I still feel like I need to see him fight a Yair Rodriguez or a Dan Ige or whoever to kind of almost be fully convinced that he actually truly is.
No,
so yeah,
100%. And I think, just from a personal opinion, I think if these guys are not fighting regularly, they should be dropped out of the ranking system, because if they're not fighting for a year or 18 months or 2 years, why are they still ranked above people that are fighting consistently? There should be a clause that says, if you haven't fought for 16 months, you're out of the ranking system. That's it, you're done, mate. Do you know what I mean? And then you're working your way back up, or you get a kind of fight that would lead you back to where you were before, but you shouldn't be able to jump back in. You obviously got quite strong opinions about TJ Dillashaw after juicing and going away for 2 years and then coming back and fighting for what seems like a title eliminator.
Yeah, and I think what the frustrating thing with Zabit is that Zabit, across he hasn't fought since I think October 2019. So by the time he actually fights again, it'll probably have been 2 years. And in that period of time, I mean, how many times has the Yair fight fallen off? 4 times in that time? And sometimes it's obviously been from the Yair side, but I think 3 of the 4 times have been from Zabit's side. Like, there's got to be question marks at that point as to what are you doing? Like, maybe is it just you don't want to fight Yair? What is it? Because Yair gives you a hell of a tough night, but you give him the tough night as well across 3 rounds. So I don't really understand the Zabit thing. But the bottom line is, it's just completely frustrating that we don't get to see him more regularly. We want to see the best mixed martial artists on the planet fight regularly. We want everyone to be doing the Israel Adesanya thing. Izzy will fight in 3 or 4 months' time again. That's what we want to see. We want to see the best guys fighting consistently. It's as simple as that.
And even Yair Rodriguez to have 6 months suspension because he didn't piss in a tube every 3 weeks like he was asked to by USADA, and then he's coming back and fighting someone like Matt Holloway. Obviously, that fight obviously dropped off due to injury, but for him to come back and fight someone so highly ranked and so highly respected in mixed martial arts is a little bit baffling, to be honest with you. I feel like he should be, you know what, you got suspended, mate. Do you know what I mean? You've been reprimanded for not doing something right. You need to go to the back of the queue now.
Totally. And again, this is another example. So like with Yair, a world-class mixed martial artist, but you've had the suspension. This is why now that this fight has fallen off with Max, that I would really, really go for Max against the Zombie. And I love the idea of Yair against Chikadze simply because it's 2 world-class kickboxers, facing each other. It's a potential for an unbelievable striking matchup. So I agree with you that to jump straight back in after you've missed your USADA kind of testing, to fight one of the greatest, if not the greatest featherweight of all time seems a bit wrong. And much like Dillashaw, we talk about him at a different weight. TJ, fighting Sandhagen basically as a title eliminator fight. It just doesn't sit quite right with me, to be honest. But there we go.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do. And at the end of the day, all we can do is record our opinion and give it out to the world and hope that people agree with us. And even if you don't, it doesn't matter. It's still a conversational point, isn't it? And that kind of wraps up last night. It was quite a short card, I think. And obviously it was a fight night, UFC Fight Night 29 as well. And I'm really enjoying these Apex fights, to be honest with you, because I prefer the no crowd anyway. I feel like you get to listen to the corners a lot more. You get to listen to the breathing and the shouting and the slaps, the kicks, the punches, everything. You get to hear it just a little bit more, and it makes you feel like you're there you're ringside for a sparring between two of these elite athletes. Next week, we've obviously got Gane versus Volkov next week, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
What a fight that will be. Gane is obviously 9-0 now, I believe, after beating Big Boy Rosenstruik in a bit of a snooze fest. Fingers crossed Volkov can draw something out of him. But I think that's going to be a super tough fight for Gane, right?
Yeah, definitely, man. This is definitely the acid test now, for Ciryl Gane. This is going to be a guy that is going to be quite happy he's going to want to kind of strike with you and, have a bit more of a stand-up fight in Volkov. And Volkov at the moment feels a bit like the dark horse of the kind of, heavyweight division. He's kind of no one's talking about him, but he's actually really, really quite good. Yeah. So it's a hell of a test for Ciryl Gane. I think if Ciryl Gane comes through this on Saturday, I think a lot of people will think that this guy is very close to a title shot.
No, he is. And I think his last performance out was against Overeem, right? Which obviously retired him.
Yeah, Volkov.
Basically retired him.
Yeah.
Volkov. And we're going to be breaking that down tomorrow. That is next week. The fights are next week, so we're going to be breaking that down tomorrow and talking a little bit more about the fights. But that's everything for UFC Fight Night 29 in Casual Corner. Well, I think we need to change your name, to be honest with you, because you're not a casual. Do you know what I mean? You just need to find a new gimmick, man.
I thought we said it was Crush Casual Corner, so I thought I was Triple C.
Crush Casual Corner. Yes, Crush Casual Corner. Thank you very much, George, for jumping on, as always, man. And like I said at the beginning of the show, if you did enjoy our content, please check us out on Facebook. No, we're not on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We are on Twitter. We are at Fighting Talk 2, of course. We're on YouTube, obviously, and Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all of those lovely places where you can find us. And we do really, really appreciate it when we get a little thumbs up, we get a like, we get a comment or something, and we always like to reply as well. So until next time, George, thank you very much, and thank you everyone for listening.